ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Power Bomb Weekly.
Because AEW had one of the best shows they've had in a long time. They had a 3-star show, in my opinion.
So I'll comment this real quick for a second. The clip that I am going to tear apart, as I understand, was not broadcast on the main show.
Right. You can, yeah. Do you want to go with that first? We can go with that first.
Present me the show, and then I will give you my opinion on this clip and tell you why.
I don't have that clip up, but I can pull it up.
Oh, no.
It's on the Facebook. Yeah. Everybody's had a chance to watch it. We'll talk about that clip. So the first thing you have to understand, Michael, is AEW has 2 shows.
Okay.
Dynamite and Dark.
Yes.
Dynamite is shown on TNT. Dark is shown on Facebook. The reference you're referencing is on the Facebook side, which doesn't actually has it's basically the Saturday Morning Superstars. It's the main event, not the main eventer. It's the mid-carder versus the person who's never won a match.
Yes.
So before we get that, so AEW had a really great show this week. I'm going to go through it really quick, kind of catch you up, and then I have 3 clips from the show that I want to show you.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, it starts off. There's MJF, who we did not talk about as a comedy wrestler.
No,
because I'm going to bring him up with some of the things that are in here.
And real quick, I do want to backtrack just for a second, because I talked to Joe about this last week after we watched the show. I slightly rescind what I had said about the Jericho MJF dinner dance party variety show.
He watched the whole clip.
I watched it in a vacuum. I watched it live with you guys, and I only got to watch about 1.5 minutes of it and not the entire 5 minutes and 37-second clip of what it is that he did put up on our page for you guys to watch for your own viewing pleasure. Watching it in its entirety around the show, I'm still going with MJF is absolutely amazing, and that actually got really bad. Okay,
so the first match was, they're doing this whole tournament to see who gets...
Yeah, I remember
the AEW. So MJF was going to wrestle. Wardlow was going to wrestle Hangman Page.
Yes.
Well, everybody who watches AEW knows that this is setting up to be Hangman versus Kenny Omega because they split up as a tag team. So they knew that Wardlow wasn't going to win.
But remember when New Japan and those guys were there? They were awesome. Let's do that again.
So MJF declared that if Wardlow loses the belt, MJF declared that if Wardlow wins the belt, it's MJF's belt because Wardlow works for him, and therefore it would be his property because Wardlow doesn't have any property. Wardlow is a really big bouncer kind of guy.
I've seen Wardlow. Yeah. I like Wardlow. The issue with that I have is, and this is something involved in all of wrestling, and I apologize.
That's right.
I don't like when wrestlers get to just make up the fucking steps of whatever they want before or after the match at that point, because what's the point of having your commissioners? What's the point of having this? So when they just come out and and AEW is very bad for this, TNA was bad for it. Whenever they just come out and they're like, oh, by the way, it's now a no DQ match. It's like, who made that choice? If the whole point of having contract signings and all this extra stuff that we sprinkle around wrestling is you just don't get to change the match because the writers decided to rewrite the match 20 minutes before it started. You have to have reasons for that.
That's only WWE. So out comes Sammy Guevara, who does not want MJF to be in part of the inner circle, which is a big part of what I'm going to show you here. Yeah. And then MJF has this amazing line where he goes to Sammy Guevara. He goes, "You look like the guy who sells Adderall to middle schoolers." About Sammy Guevara.
Damn.
So there it is. So then they have the match. It was a really good physical match, as 2 real big physical guys should have.
Yeah.
It took 2 buckshot lariats for Hangman Page to beat Wardlow. I gave it about 3. I gave it 3 stars. It was a really physical, good match.
Okay.
Then Eddie Kingston came out to wrestle Evan Bourne. Matt Sydal.
Matt Sydal. Yeah, okay.
I'm not a fan of the whole third eye thing.
No.
So Sydal, of course, looked amazing to begin with, so you know he's going to lose. They did the whole back fist.
I felt so bad for him on his debut when he missed the shooting star and just almost killed himself.
The best part of this match was Bunny looked amazing. But I did give it 3 stars because it was good. It stayed relative. Like this, I honestly don't think Cornette could have really crapped on this match much.
I'm sure I'll listen to Cornette, and he did.
I'm sure he did too.
Jim, I love you, but God, you hate everything.
So the big middle part of this was the inner circle stuff. I'm going to get back to that at the end. I'm going to jump ahead and then go back to the...
I mean, that's fine that they're bleeding their main thing into everything. That's
So-
good. That is good if that's their intention.
OJ, Orange Cassidy versus Cody for the TNT Championship.
I did watch parts
The Lumberjack
of this.
match.
I did watch parts of this because I saw Orange and him together, and I was like, all right, I got to see what's going on with this.
Cassidy acted like a real wrestler through the entire match.
I like that he took it serious. That was a good change because it showed that the match mattered. You know, maybe he does have a care about the title, which is good. That's a good change for him.
This could have been a 4-star match if it weren't for the way it ended.
I didn't see the ending because they cut it off.
So the way it ended is the Dark Order interfered, and then Arn Anderson interfered, and then basically both, you had the heel faction team smack Orange Cassidy, and then you had Arn Anderson smack Cassidy, and then Cody wins without realizing that
There was any involvement.
right.
Okay.
It was just
Seeing again in a vacuum, seeing that in that. Okay, the ending sounds bad, but I like that because that shows forward thinking.
it didn't need both people doing it. Arn Anderson interfering on behalf of Cody, because that's been kind of an ongoing thing. Arn Anderson will stiff the opponent. Cody doesn't realize it
because Cody doesn't watch his own show. That he is
Cody doesn't realize it that Arn's helping him win.
Again, the negative space that wrestling exists in. You don't actually watch the wrestling show to figure out that somebody helped you cheat or somebody double crossed you.
Nobody watches the
recap or anything that they play throughout the entire show. You just have your match and then you go home and then you come back next week.
So again, it was a super flaky ending. It was a great match. Then you had Serena Deb versus Legit. Serena Deb is the new NWA champion. So Billy Corrigan,
familiar with her. I don't know the other girl.
I thought this was going to be a squash down by the new by the new NWA champion. So it's interesting that Billy Corrigan is giving his female wrestlers a chance to wrestle on AEW.
Real quick, for anybody who has no clue what the hell we're talking about, Billy Corrigan, lead singer and Smashing Pumpkins, you know, the dude of the Smashing Pumpkins, owns NWA Wrestling.
He was supposed to own TNA.
And that is a whole 6 shows in of itself. But yes, Billy Corgan, Zero,
screwed.
Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. By the way, I think it's one of the best albums ever made. I love Billy Corgan.
Screwed. He got screwed.
A wrestling company because he's such a huge fan of wrestling, and he bought the NWA.
He took a company that wasn't even giving the wrestlers paychecks. We won't go there.
Yeah.
It was a technical brawl. It was a really good match. It was way better than I thought it should be, and I gave it 3 stars.
I mean, okay, that's good.
Then Mr. Peyton Royce, Sean Spears.
Okay.
He wrestled a guy named VSK. So one of the things that I like to do is if it's a wrestler I've never seen, I immediately go to Google, the Google machine, to Google who he is, and did this guy wrestle somewhere else? Sean Spears had beaten the guy before I could even get Google to tell me who VSK was.
Well, there's your squash match.
Yeah. And then they did a set up with Scorpion Sky.
Okay.
Because Scorpion Sky wants a piece of Sean Spears. And then they had the Penta versus Omega match, because even though Penta's brother won last week, he got injured because sometimes AEW doesn't know how to take care of the wrestlers when they do bumps. He hurt himself, so Penta got the match.
Was that the one where they were talking about the medical staff handling everything properly during the time he got hurt? Okay, all right. I'm familiar with that.
I kept thinking his brother was going to cost him the match. Omega gets a destroyer on the ramp, which was very impressive looking.
Okay, nice.
It would have gotten 4 stars if it had not been so long. And Kenny Omega, so Penta, for those who've never seen Penta Dark or Penta Uka Uka, whatever the hell his name is now, he got sued because his name was trademarked somewhere, I think in Lucha Underground, and Lucha Underground folded.
Because he's Pentagon, yeah.
But he kept his name, and they're like, you can't do that. Anyway, so Penta, as I like to call him, was working. He's a submission specialist, and he's one of those technicians that works an arm. He works a spot.
He's a ground pound guy.
And he was working Kenny's arm all night because Kenny needs the one-armed angel.
To do the one-armed, yeah.
So,
and I love Final Fantasy, so good job on that.
And as soon as he set him up for the one-winged angel, his arm felt great. Was able to pull off the move without no-sold the arm. Then he gave the move, won the match, and then he started selling the arm again. It just was sloppy. Now,
that happens so much,
yeah,
and including the Havoc stuff that we'll get into. I wish guys would learn to stop doing stuff like that. Where if you're getting a leg worked on, if you're hurt, if you're selling your back, if you're selling something that the idea is that you have this amazing thing, or you have this well-known thing that you can do, okay? Like, oh my God, this guy's got this amazing power move that he can do. Oh my God, his back got hurt. Can he get the move off? Can he get the move off? And you struggle, and maybe you go to get the guy up, and then he can't do it, and then, oh my God, he powers through, and he's able to do this move. Okay, great. But so much now recently, guys are having this whole setup of, I'm selling, I'm getting hurt, and then all of a sudden they just hit the ropes and just do, a back and forth, drop down, pop up, whatever they can do, your normal sequence of stuff. And it's like, if your leg is so bad that you can't pull off your power move that wins you your match, how can you do a lariat, run across the ropes, drop down, leapfrog, pop up, whatever, and be fine and do it? Remember what your shit is, what you're doing.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to share right now is I told you about Kenny Omega's amazing entrance.
Yes, this is he real quick before you hit this. Is Omega a heel right now? Is that the point? Because if he's not a heel, why is he doing this entrance? Because he can? Because he's just stroking himself off?
Because he's the vice president of the company. I don't know.
All right. So reaction time. We're gonna watch this,
and you will see this above us when
in this spot here.
When this goes to YouTube.
All right. Or you can watch it online.
The Mega Champion of
Oh, so yeah, we got to start all over.
All right, we're going to back it up real quick.
Okay.
And now, the Mega Champion of AAA, PWI's top 500 #1 wrestler in the world, and Wrestling Observer's Wrestler of the Year in 2018, Sports Illustrated's Wrestler of the Year in 2017. He has broken the Meltzer 5-star scale 7 times, and has both the highest rated singles and tag team match of all time. He is so fluent in Japanese that he sometimes translates for Michael Nakazawa. He once performed in North Carolina. He stands 6 feet tall and weighs 224 pounds. He is Kenny
He once wrestled in North Carolina.
Once. Not twice, because they told him to get the hell out of Flow Country.
Here come
we have dancing girls in bikinis with brooms sweeping because he was the cleaner when he was in New Japan. Remember when we used to like Omega?
They look like
He's got a great 1980s action intro going on right now. I think it's a silhouette, or he might be in a wingsuit. I can't tell. He's coming out in the dome because they have a tunnel that they're coming out of. And, okay.
I'm reinventing again.
Reinventing again.
Okay. Good pop. His body still looks good. I've seen Omega a couple times recently. Looks good.
A very focused Kenny
Is that his wife?
No. That girl has 45 pounds on Rizzo.
Okay, so you see this goes for another 3 minutes.
Okay.
That entrance was longer than the match he had last week.
All right.
Okay.
I'm glad that he has
stroked his ego.
I'm glad that he cut the gigantic dead rat that was hanging off the back of his hair up a little bit so his mullet doesn't look as bad as what it used to, but get a haircut, dude.
Okay, so in the middle of the show, they had the town hall meeting because this is where Jericho is going to decide whether or not MJF is going to join the Inner Circle. So this was the first question. So they brought people up to ask questions. There were two questions I thought were really, really funny that I wanted to get your reactions on. This is the first one. This is his first question.
Question 1.
Let's get to the first question. It is from a gentleman from 65 million BC, Mr. Lucha Soros.
I love Lucha Soros.
My question is for MJF. Sorry, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. As a representative of dinosaurs and as a medieval historian, I understand the power of economics in creating change over time within societies. So, considering MJF that you do not have a master's degree, like myself, how can you contribute to the earning potential and ensure the continued financial prosperity of the inner circle?
Okay.
That's comedy. That's funny. I love this guy. And he is scary as shit.
He's a
He's
big dude.
6'6".
It's full of tattoos, got a dinosaur mask on, and he asked the most intelligent question you've ever heard.
Yes.
And this is the stuff Cornette hates.
I thought that was hilarious.
Okay, so
that was comedy.
Okay, and now we're gonna get MJF's answer.
Okay.
Because
Wow, everybody give it up for Lucha Soros, huh? That was a great question for a dinosaur, buddy. Good job. Luckily for you and for everyone watching at home, I have an answer. Pull it up on the screen, please. As you can see, I had a statistical chart made to show you the benefits of me joining the Inner Circle financially, and I have had all of the top financial advisors help me out with this bad boy.
so he goes on.
I hope those are not Tony Khan's financial advisors because they are lying.
So the whole point of that is MJF's facials are gold.
Yes. That was good. I mean,
Now,
here's the question, though, that I have to ask of what is this leading towards? So, Jericho's the leader, right?
right.
I assume this is going down the path of Jericho's putting him through the ringer for all of this stuff,
Right.
And the whole joke, it has to go one or two ways. The whole joke is either A, they're going to kick Jericho out of the Inner Circle and they're going to make MJF the leader, and that's what it's been going through the whole time.
I hadn't thought about that.
Or B, they've just been stringing MJF along this whole time, making him go through the ringer, and then they're just going to put the boots to him, and that's supposed to flip him into being a face.
MJF can't be a face.
No, he can't. He's so naturally heelish.
Right.
So with that, that's the outcome one is the only logical thing, because if you go through all of this and then he's just a member of the Inner Circle, then we just wasted like 8 weeks worth of television for what purpose?
It's, in my opinion, it's because Jericho wants to cling to the things that's most popular, and MJF is most popular. I will go with what Cornette thinks on that one. Now,
Jericho's not dumb.
right.
He's not dumb at all. He might be doing dumb shit, but he's not dumb.
So the last person to ask a question was a guy named Eric from Cody, Wyoming.
That's where Bischoff's at, by the way. Sorry, your beer company didn't do good, man.
Oh, wait, no, we already watched that one.
All right, we're bringing this up real quick. And son of a bitch. Okay. Hi, Eric. How are you?
Get the volume turned back on so you can...
This is interesting. So, real quick, while he's flummoxing with the laptop, Eric from Cody, Wyoming, is in fact Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff, obviously, as you guys know, president of WCW, WCW folded, worked with the WWE, had recently gone back to the WWE. He was essentially the fall guy for if SmackDown didn't break a world record number, that they could just fire him. You cannot convince me otherwise that was not what he was there for, was to be the fall guy, to have a big name and say, all right, you're fired because we couldn't turn it around fast enough. He just walked out on AEW, which is completely interesting because I listened to 83 Weeks, and he is basically no-sold any involvement with AEW
This
whatsoever.
is the second time he's been on their program.
Okay.
This is the second time he's been on their program.
All right.
All right, so, Eric,
Whoa! Who's here?
you're going to love this.
Fish!
Jericho's face.
Big time podcast.
Oh, they're doing the piped-in
Tony.
crowd?
Oh, no.
Mr. Jericho?
No, they have a crowd there.
Okay.
It's Florida. They're allowed to have people and things. So,
okay.
So what happens is, on the screen right now, I pause it with Eric's about
There's
to
a
talk
ton
about.
of empty arena space.
And then above them are people actually in the arena.
Oh, so they
have
open up
them
the
in
upper
pods.
deck. Okay.
And then they have the wrestlers are around the ring, like NXT does.
Like, okay, all right, gotcha. All right.
Now, yeah, so you're gonna see some good stuff here. Back to MJF thing. So 2 members of the Inner Circle don't want him in, and 2 members don't care.
Okay.
So that's why they're doing all of these town. All right. So back to.
Also, there might be an election happening, so this is why they're doing town hall meetings.
Mr. Jericho. Esteemed members of the Inner Circle and Mr. Friedman, pleasure to be here. I have a 3-pronged question, if you will. January 20th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy, during his inaugural address, said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And Mr. Friedman, I ask you, what can you do for the Inner Circle?
Eric, that was truly a great question, and it was very powerful. So I can only give you a one-worded, powerful answer. Friendship.
Jericho looks like a canned ham, by the way. So Jericho is wearing his heat-getting outfit where he's got the big sequence and everything on. He looks like a disco ball, but he has his shirt off, and he's wearing, I think, his wrestling pants. He's got black pants and his boots on, but he looks like what I look like when I get out of the shower and just walk past the mirror and go, "Ugh." That's when he looks like a canned ham right now.
But the humbleness that MJF showed.
No, you got to watch the clip, guys, because he does this. He goes, friendship.
And conversely, Mr. Friedman, given that most would consider you to be nearly a complete package as a wrestler, what is it that you believe the Inner Circle can do for you?
Well, Eric, unfortunately, I'm going to have to correct you there. I'm not nearly a total package. I am a total package, okay? You tried, though, and you're doing great. Trust me. Guys, the mic's in my hand. It's really not that complicated to understand.
The arrogance of this man. It's like,
He can't be a face. He's so naturally heelish. I've heard people talk about who've met him before, and they're like, he's so good, but he's just a dick, and he's so good at being one. And like he was literally, Cornette talked about it recently on this. He was getting heat with the fans in like a horrible place that they were at running a show because he just doesn't care. He is part of the business. I love this kid.
While I am the total package, I am able to humbly accept that there is one dent in my armor, and that is the simple fact that I might not be the best team player. But I firmly believe that once I join all these great men, I could learn how to be.
Okay, so this is how smart he is, okay? He says that he's a total package, right? But he has a dent in his armor, which means that he's not a total package, right?
right.
But he jumps back on that by saying the reason that he has the dent is because he's not a team player, so he needs to join a team to learn how to be a team player, which is genius because it covers up the fact that he just said he's the total package, but he's really not. So it is. He's so smart.
Okay, real quick. Say hello to your son.
Hello, Caden. You should be ready for bed here soon, buddy. I love you.
Okay.
Finally, Mr. Friedman, as you are well aware, I've worked with Mr. Jericho for many years, and I think most would agree with me that he is a prima donna.
Whoa. A prima donna? You know, I've never
Mr.
liked
Jericho,
you, Bishop.
Mr. Jericho, Mr. Bischoff has the floor.
He called me a prima donna, Tony. He's calling me names.
Mr. Jericho, shut up!
Tony Schiavone just told him to shut up.
Tony, I'm glad you're back. That's good. Bischoff is laughing his ass off right now. And real quick, So Bischoff is in Wyoming, right? And I listen to his radio show, and he talks about living in Wyoming and doing all this nature shit that he does, right? His neck is just jacked, which means he's like hauling lumber or something. It's really interesting because he's usually like a skinny twerp. But yeah, man, he looks big around like the upper body.
Mr. Bischoff has the floor.
He's laughing so hard.
You're welcome.
You can tell he's missed Tony.
Given, Mr. Friedman, the fact that you possess many of those same prima donna-esque characteristics.
Whoa.
Let me finish my question, please. What is the guarantee that if you do join the inner circle, you two don't just end up killing each other?
Okay.
And then they decide that they're going to have a match against each other to determine whether or not he'll be in the inner circle at the next pay-per-view. So I thought I'd surprise you with that.
So, one, Eric Bischoff, I do like you. I like your radio show. I do think you're very funny, and you're clearly very good at articulating and getting things across. I'm glad to see you back on that. It's a nice surprise. Again, your neck is just massive, man. You've got to be hauling lumber up there or something. Okay, it's topical. It's the town hall. Shivani being there is great.
Well, the previous
MJF is awesome at this.
the previous thing. So the previous thing that MJF had going on was make AEW great again.
Yes.
And then Bischoff showed up at the town hall for that one also.
Okay.
And it was spoiled by the internet that he was going to be there.
Okay.
And this one was not spoiled.
Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool.
So you want to talk about your stuff here before we dive into NXT
and talk about Havoc? Okay. So real quick, I hate to say real quick because this could be a long form. This could be a show in of itself. Many people in the wrestling world are aware Tracy Smothers passed away over the weekend. Actually, I believe he passed away the day after our first show is when they announced it. I guess he had around a year-long battle of lymphoma cancer for a while. Tracy Smothers was somebody that I had met several times as a young kid because he was part of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling. He worked in WCW. He worked for the WWF. He worked in the ECW with part of the FBI with Full Blood Italians. He was a great Southern wrestling talent. Some people who might be watching the show from back east, including one of the gentlemen from the House of Kayfabe, which is another internet radio wrestling show that they host that has got several programs on it right now, including, I do believe, the Stephen P. New, who is Jim Cornette's attorney, is on there, as well as hosting the Shane Douglas franchise podcast. Mr. Brian Resner actually was like his dog setter when he would go off and do matches when he was younger. So I assure that this has probably affected him, and it affecting the wrestling world as a whole. Googling Tracy, when I was looking up some information to talk about him real quick, was actually the #1 searched Google thing right now was Tracy Smothers. He got a huge outpour of love at the end of his life from a lot of these people who were talking about it. He was the first state champion in wrestling for Springfield High in Springfield, Tennessee, where he grew up. He debuted in 1982 and wrestled all the way through on the independent circuit until 2019 when he was diagnosed with his cancer. I agree with what Cornette said. He had a great eulogy. It's about an hour and a half long. You can listen to it on the YouTube section that he talks about. If he would have come along 20 years before when he broke into the business, if he would have peaked in 82 as opposed to starting in 82, he probably would have been one of the great premier Southern babyface wrestlers. He was very, very good. He broke in with Steve Armstrong as part of the Wild Out Southern Boys. Great stuff that they did for them. They were a great tag team for a long time. He was involved at the Halloween Havoc in 1991 with Rick Rude involving the WCW Phantom. Some of you guys might remember that, where they got their championship. He later moved on to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which I saw him a lot of. He was Cornette's premier Southern babyface. They had great matches with the Dirty White Boy who were out there. He was just so good. They did a lot of the inner promos between Smoky Mountain Wrestling and the USWA. A lot of the stuff that they did was absolutely amazing. His final wrestling match in the WWF was held in Huntington, West Virginia, where he was Freddie Joe, which was the dancing kind of gimmick that I talked about. I was actually at that because anytime the WWF came to town, we always tried to go and see that. So I don't remember it, to be perfectly honest, but I do remember being there because of where it was at, because we were only like an hour and a half from where Huntington is in West Virginia. He was a member of the WWE head injury lawsuit that we will probably talk about at some point later on. That would be a great show that I would like to talk about. He was diagnosed in December 2019 with lymphoma cancer. Unfortunately, it did take his life, so he almost made it a year through, I believe, his initial diagnosis. Couple things that you might remember him for is, one, his involvement in a fist-fighting match with JBL that happened at the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view, where JBL took cheap shots in on the Blue Meanie, someone we discussed earlier. Meanie had actually had staples, I think, in the back of his head from the previous nights before, where they did the House of Hardcore Homecoming before they did the One Night Stand pay-per-view. JBL took a shot at him and busted his nose, broke his nose, busted the back of the staples out of his head. Tracy Smothers basically ran up on John, and they had a pretty good fisticuff on it, and he stuck up for his people, essentially, is what it was. You know, he stuck up for the ECW crowd. A lot of people remember him with the FBI, with the dancing gimmick. If you ever saw TNA, he did come back for the ECW 2.0 Revolution. He had that great line, we're about to have a dance-off and it better be fucking good, otherwise everybody dies. He used that line multiple times over. You can watch some of his matches that he had in the last couple years of his life where he wrestled female wrestlers as Sung Yi. He was an amazing talent, a great, hardworking wrestler, a very nice guy. He was able to be both a heel and a classic babyface. He actually was part of the Nation of Domination on the USWA side, where he wrestled as Shaquille Ali. Very interesting because his ring attire was largely a big rebel flag jacket with like a rebel flag, one piece that he had on. But him being a part of that for the Nation of Domination, when they kind of spiraled out and had many different sectors and things like that of it, was actually very funny. Very sad that he passed. And real quick, I will plug it because it is on YouTube. You can go watch it. Watch the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tracy Smothers versus Chris Gandino match from 1994 with the ladder match in it. If you don't believe anything that I'm saying, and you maybe have only seen the pictures of him more recently where he was later in his life, he was just an amazing talent in the ring. Very sad to hear that he passed. And I do understand that I believe that there was a GoFundMe page or something like that to deal with his health issues that has now been turned into a funeral payments, things like that for it. So if you are able or interested in possibly donating, go check that out. I do believe it is 100% official from the family. Again, Tracy Smothers, great talent. Very sad that we lost it. We're starting to lose a lot of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling crew. We had Armstrong and then passed not that long ago, and we're starting to get into a lot of the people that I got a lot of interaction with, especially at a young age, and that's going to start sucking here soon, man, if we start losing a lot of those guys from that talent, that era of that talent. But Tracy Smothers, man, sorry, man.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about something fun. Halloween Havoc.